The alarm screamed through the station like a wounded animal. Red lights painted the walls in bloody color. Admiral Taiho dropped his coffee and ran to the command center. In his 30 years of service, he had never heard this alarm. No one had. It was the sound that meant only one thing. Someone had entered human space. Report, Taiho commanded as he reached the main screen. Lieutenant Yuna turned from her station. Her face was pale. 3 vessels, sir. They crossed the boundary 7 minutes ago. They are not stopping. They are not responding to warnings. Taiho felt ice in his stomach. The boundary had stood for 200 years. Every species in the galaxy knew the rule. Human space was death. The last aliens who tried to enter were turned into dust. Their ships became floating graves. The message was clear then, and it remained clear now. Show me, Taiho said. The screen filled with 3 ships. They were not military vessels. They were old, broken things. Their hulls were covered in damage. Fires burned in sections that should have been sealed. These ships were dying even as they flew. They are heading toward the inner colonies, Yuna said. At their current speed, they will reach the first settlement in 18 hours. Have they attacked? Have they threatened? No, sir. They have done nothing except fly forward. They are ignoring every warning we send. Taiho watched the ships crawl across the screen. He had trained his whole life for this moment. He knew what the law demanded. He knew what 2 centuries of human doctrine required. But something about these ships made him hesitate. They were not invaders. They were survivors. Send the pursuit fleet, Taiho ordered. Captain Ginho will lead. Tell him to shadow the vessels. Do not engage until I give the command. The order went out. Within the hour, 12 human warships surrounded the 3 alien vessels. Captain Ginho stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the strangers with careful eyes. Ginho was not a young man. His hair had turned gray from years of war and waiting. He had fought in the border skirmishes. He had seen what happened when aliens underestimated humans. He had also seen what happened when humans forgot why they built walls around their space. Captain, his second-in-command said. Commander Mingy walked to his side. She was younger than him, but her eyes held the same hardness. We are receiving a transmission from the lead vessel. They want to talk. Put it through. The screen flickered. An alien face appeared. It was thin, almost skeletal, with large dark eyes that held more sadness than Ginho had ever seen in any creature. The alien spoke in broken human language, each word slow and painful. We are Velka, the creature said. We know your laws. We know what happens to those who enter your space. We have come anyway. We have nowhere else to go. Ginho kept his face still. You know our laws, and yet you broke them. You understand that we cannot let you pass. Yes, the Velka said. We understand. We accept death at your hands. It is kinder than what waits for us outside your borders. Minji leaned close to Ginho. They are refugees. Their ships carry thousands of life signs, mostly children. Ginho felt something twist inside him. He had trained to kill enemies. He had not trained to kill children. What are you running from? Ginho asked. The Velka's dark eyes seemed to grow darker. We call them the Hollow. They are a sickness that eats civilizations. They came to our world 3 cycles ago. They did not conquer us. They did not kill us. They absorbed us. Our people, our ships, our history, all became part of them. We are the only ones who escaped. We fled across the galaxy looking for somewhere safe. There is nowhere safe, except here. Why here? Because you are the only species the Hollow fears. They have studied every race in the galaxy. They have consumed hundreds of civilizations, but they will not enter human space. They remember what happened when they sent scouts here long ago. They remember the ships that never returned. You are the only ones who ever hurt them. Ginho looked at Minji. She looked back at him. Neither of them spoke, but they both understood. This was not a simple border violation. This was something much bigger. If what you say is true, Ginho said slowly, then the Hollow will come eventually. They will not fear us forever. The Velka nodded. They are already coming. We detected their swarm 2 days behind us. They followed our trail. We have led them here. We are sorry. We had no choice. But we bring information. We know how they think. We know their weaknesses. If you destroy us, you destroy the only chance you have to prepare. The transmission ended. The screen went dark. Jinho stood in silence. Around him, his crew waited for orders. They were soldiers. They followed the rules. The rules said these aliens must die. The rules had kept humanity safe for 200 years, but rules were written by people. And people could be wrong, Sir Minji said quietly. What are your orders? Ginho looked at the 3 dying ships on his screen. He thought about the thousands of refugees inside. He thought about the children. He thought about the hollow. Coming through the darkness of space like a hungry shadow, he thought about his grandfather, Doyan, who had fought in the first contact wars. Doyan had always told him that humans were not cruel because they wanted to be. They were cruel because the galaxy had given them no other choice. But what happened when cruelty was no longer the right answer? Hold position, Ginho said finally. Do not fire. Not yet, sir. That violates direct protocol. I know what it violates. Jinho turned away from the screen. Get me Admiral Taiho. Tell him we have a problem that is bigger than 3 ships. Tell him the war we have been preparing for has finally arrived. Outside, in the cold silence of space, the Velka ships waited for death or mercy. They did not know which one they would receive. But they had come too far to turn back now. They had entered human space knowing they might never leave. They could only hope that humans were more than the monsters the galaxy believed them to be. 200 years ago, humans believed they were alone in the universe. They were wrong. Young Ensign Doyan stood on the observation deck of the colony ship Magangwa and watched the stars pass by. He was 23 years old, full of hope and wonder. Humanity had finally reached beyond their small planet. They were exploring the galaxy. They believed they would find friends among the stars. They found enemies instead. The first contact happened, near a small moon in the outer rim. A massive ship appeared from nowhere. It was beautiful and terrifying. The Galactic Assembly had sent their representatives to meet the new species called humans. Doyan remembered the meeting. He remembered how the alien ambassadors looked at the human delegates. There was no respect in their eyes. There was only hunger. Your species is young, the lead ambassador had said. He was an Orin, tall and powerful, with scales that shimmered like gold. You have much to learn. The assembly will help you. In return, your world will serve us. This is how things work in the galaxy. The human ambassador, a woman named Director Park, had smiled politely. And if we refuse? The Orin had laughed. It was not a kind laugh. Young species do not refuse. They obey or they disappear. This is the natural order. Director Park had stood up from her chair. She was small compared to the Orin. She looked fragile and weak, but her voice was strong when she spoke. Humanity does not serve. We do not bow. We do not obey. Find another species to bully. We are not interested. Yorin stopped laughing. His golden eyes turned cold. Then you will learn the hard way. The first contact wars began 3 months later. The Assembly sent their fleets to teach humanity a lesson. They expected the war to last weeks. They expected humans to surrender quickly, like every other young species had done. They were very wrong. Doyan fought in 18 battles during the 12 years of war. He watched 7 human colonies burn. He saw billions of his people die. He saw things that never left his nightmares. But he also saw something else. He saw humanity refuse to break. When the Assembly destroyed 1 colony, humans built 2 more. When they killed human soldiers, more humans volunteered to fight. When they pushed humanity to the edge of extinction, humanity pushed back harder. The war changed everything. Humans learned that the galaxy was not a place of friendship and exploration. It was a place of predators and prey. And humans decided they would never be prey. They developed new weapons. Terrible weapons. Weapons that made the Assembly's technology look like toys. They learned to fight without mercy, without hesitation, without limits. They became what the galaxy had forced them to become. The final battle happened at Proxima. The Orin homeworld's defense fleet was the largest in the galaxy. Thousands of ships protected their planet. They believed they were untouchable. Doyin was there when the human fleet arrived. He was there when Admiral Kim gave the order. He was there when human weapons tore through the Orin defenses like fire through paper. The battle lasted 6 hours. By the end, the Orin fleet was dust. Their planet was surrounded by human warships. The assembly surrendered the next day, but humanity did not celebrate. They did not forgive. They did not forget. Instead, they drew a line around their space and made a simple promise. Any alien that crossed that line without permission would never return. For 200 years, that promise held. The galaxy learned to fear human space. Stories spread among alien species about the monsters who lived beyond the boundary. Parents told their children to be good, or the humans would come for them. Doyon lived long enough to see his people become legends. He lived long enough to tell his grandson Jinho about the war. He lived long enough to explain why humanity had become what it was. We did not want to be monsters, Doyon had told young Jinho, but the galaxy gave us no choice. We learned that kindness is weakness. We learned that mercy is death. We built walls of blood and fire, and those walls have kept us safe. Never forget why we built them. Never forget what happens when we let them fall. 200 years later, Ginho stood on his bridge and remembered his grandfather's words. The Velka refugees waited outside his ship. The rules were clear. History was clear. Humanity had survived because they showed no mercy to trespassers. Commander Minji watched him carefully. Sir Admiral Taiho is asking for your recommendation. Do we follow protocol? Jinho closed his eyes. He saw his grandfather's face. He heard his grandfather's voice. He remembered the stories of blood and fire and survival. But he also remembered something else his grandfather had said near the end of his life. Something quieter. Something sadder. The walls kept us safe, Doyen had whispered. But they also kept us alone. I wonder sometimes if we lost something important when we built them. I wonder if we forgot how to be human. The Velka ships still waited. Their message still echoed in his mind. The Hollow are coming. They are following us. We are the only ones who know how to stop them, sir. Minji asked again. Jinho made his decision. Tell Admiral Taiho that I recommend we bring the Velka to the station for questioning. We need to know everything they know about the Hollow. If a threat is coming, we need to be ready. Minji hesitated. That goes against 2 centuries of doctrine, I know. Ginho looked at the dying ships on his screen. But doctrine was created to protect us. If following it blindly leads to our destruction, then doctrine becomes meaningless. My grandfather fought so that humanity could survive. I will not let us die because we were too stubborn to listen to a warning. He paused, then added more quietly. Besides, if the Velka are wrong, we can always kill them later. But if they are right, we may need them. And dead allies are useless. The order was sent. For the first time in 200 years, alien ships were escorted into human space not as targets but as guests. History was about to change. The question was whether that change would save humanity or destroy it. The Terran War Council met in a room deep beneath the surface of Earth. 7 chairs surrounded a circular table. 7 of the most powerful humans alive sat in those chairs. They had not gathered like this in over 50 years. The last time was during the border crisis of 2291. Before that, it was the second expansion. This meeting meant something terrible was happening. Admiral Taiho stood before them and explained everything. The Velka refugees. Their warning about the Hollow. Captain Ginho's decision to bring them in for questioning when he finished. Silence filled the room. Fleet Marshal Su Jin was the first to speak. She was 93 years old, the oldest member of the council, and the most feared. She had commanded human forces during the border crisis. She had ordered the destruction of an entire alien fleet that had wandered too close to human territory. Her voice was cold as ice. The law is clear, Su Jin said. No alien enters human space uninvited. No exceptions. These Velka knew the rules. They broke them anyway. They must die. If we show mercy now, every desperate species in the galaxy will see us as weak. They will flood our borders. Our reputation is our greatest weapon. We cannot afford to lose it. Science Director Hagen raised his hand. He was younger than the others, only 45, but his mind was one of the sharpest in human history. With respect, Fleet Marshal, we may have a bigger problem than reputation. My teams have been analyzing the data packets the Velka sent. The Hollow are real. They are not just a threat to the Velka. They are a threat to everyone. He pressed a button on the table. A hologram appeared above them. It showed a map of the galaxy. Large sections were colored black. These are the regions where the Hollow have been detected, Hagen said. In the past century, they have consumed over 200 civilizations. They do not conquer. They do not negotiate. They absorb. Every species they touch becomes part of their network. Their ships, their technology, their minds. All absorbed. Defense Minister Yunji leaned forward. And they are coming here? According to the Velka, yes. The Hollow have been moving in our direction for decades. They avoided human space for a long time, but that is changing. The Velka believe the Hollow are finally ready to test us. Sujin shook her head. Then we will destroy them like we destroyed the Orin. Human weapons have never failed us. The Orin were not a hive mind, Hagen said carefully. The Hollow are different. They learn from every species they absorb. They adapt. They have the combined knowledge of hundreds of civilizations inside them. We have never faced an enemy like this. Council argued for hours. Some wanted to follow the old laws. Some wanted to hear more from the Velka. Some wanted to prepare for war immediately. The room grew tense with anger and fear. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Yuna worked alone in the communication center. She had been assigned to monitor the Velka transmissions, looking for any sign of deception. What she found was something worse. Hidden inside the Velka distress signals was a second message. It was encrypted, buried so deep that normal scanners would never find it. Yuna found it because she was not normal. She had a gift for patterns, for seeing things others missed. The hidden message was not meant for humans. It was meant for someone else. She decoded it carefully, word by word. When she finished, her blood ran cold. The message said, "Target acquired. Human central coordinates confirmed. Swarm transition in 48 hours." The Velka had not led the Hollow to human space by accident. Someone had sent them. Someone wanted the Hollow to know exactly where to find humanity. Yuna ran to find Admiral Tejo. She never reached him. The alarms began screaming before she could leave the communication center. New contacts appeared on every screen in the station. Thousands of them. They emerged from the darkness of space. Like nightmares, taking physical form, the Hollow had arrived early, while UNA watched the main screen in horror. The Hollow ships were not like any she had ever seen. They were organic living things. They pulsed and writhed as they moved. Behind them, like ghosts following a funeral procession, came the remains of other fleets. Ships from species that no longer existed. Ships that had been absorbed and reborn as puppets of the Hollow mind. Admiral Taiho's voice echoed through the station. All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Una grabbed the nearest communication device. Admiral, I have critical information. The Velka transmission was compromised. Someone used them to locate us. The Hollow knew exactly where we were before they even arrived. It does not matter now, Lieutenant. They are here. Whatever trap this was, we are already inside it. Our only choice is to fight our way out. On the Velka refugee ship, the elder named Corys watched the Hollow swarm approach. Tears ran down his thin face. He had hoped to save his people by bringing them to human space. He had believed the rumors about human strength. He had believed humans could protect them. But he had also carried a secret. A dark thing planted in his ship's computer by a traitor among the Velka. A signal that had been broadcasting. Their location since they entered human territory? I am sorry, Corys whispered to no one. I did not know. I did not know. Below him, On the surface of Earth, the War Council received the news. Fleet Marshal Sujin stood up from her chair. Her old face was hard as stone. "Awake the fleets," she commanded. "All of them. Every ship we have. The Hollow want a war. We will give them one they will never forget." The vote about the Velka refugees was forgotten. The arguments about mercy and doctrine were forgotten. There was only one thing left to do now: survive. The human fleet launched from every corner of their space. Ships that had been sleeping for decades woke up and flew toward battle. Captain Jinho was given command of the Baiko Strike Fleet, the most powerful force humanity had ever assembled. 300 warships followed his flagship into the darkness. Commander Minji stood beside him on the bridge. Her face was calm, but her hands were tight on the railing. "Hollow Swarm is holding position at the outer boundary," she reported. "They are not advancing yet. They are waiting for something." "They are studying us," Ginho said. "Every species they have absorbed taught them something new. They want to understand our tactics before they attack. Then we should not give them time to learn." Ginho nodded. "Agreed. All ships advance to engagement range. Weapons free on my command." The fleet moved forward like a wave of steel and fire. Human weapons were legendary throughout the galaxy. Energy cannons that could crack planets. Missiles that moved faster than light. Shields that could stop almost anything. For 200 years, no alien force had been able to stand against human military might. The Hollow waited. When the first human shots hit the swarm, something unexpected happened. The organic ships absorbed the energy. They did not explode. They did not break apart. They simply swallowed the attack and kept coming. "Direct hit on lead vessels," the weapons officer reported. "No damage detected. They are adapting to our weapons." Jinho felt ice in his stomach. "Switch to kinetic rounds." Full spread. The human ships launched thousands of metal projectiles. These could not be absorbed so easily. The hollow ships shattered under the impact. Organic flesh tore apart in the vacuum of space. "That got their attention," Minji said, but the victory was short-lived. From behind the front line of hollow ships came something worse. The absorbed fleets, ships from dead civilizations, piloted by crews that were no longer truly alive. They still had their original weapons. They still had their original skills. And they moved with perfect coordination, controlled by the hollow hive mind. The battle became chaos. Human ships fought against 100 different technologies at once. Every time they adapted to one threat, another appeared. The Hollow had centuries of stolen knowledge inside their network. 3 human destroyers were caught in a trap. Hollow organisms latched onto their hulls and began burrowing inside. Within minutes, the ships went silent. Their weapons turned and fired on their own fleet. "They have been absorbed," Minji said, her voice hollow. "The crews are gone." Jinho watched as people become part of the enemy. He wanted to scream. He wanted to cry. But there was no time for grief. Mark those ships as hostile. Take them down. The order broke something inside him. He was killing his own people now. The Hollow had turned them into weapons against humanity. On the communication deck, Lieutenant Yuna worked desperately. She had been assigned to break the Hollow's communication frequency. If she could understand how they coordinated, maybe she could find a weakness. What she found was voices. Thousands of voices, all speaking at once. Alien languages she did not recognize. Screams of pain and despair. Whispers of lost memories. The absorbed were still conscious inside the Hollow network. They could think. They could feel. They simply could not control their own bodies anymore. Then she heard a voice she recognized. "Auna, is that you?" Her blood turned to ice. Sunwoo. Her brother had died 3 years ago. His survey ship had disappeared near the outer rim. The official report said it was an accident. A malfunction. There were no survivors. The report was wrong. "They took us," Sunwoo's voice said through the static. "They have been watching you for years, learning, preparing. They wanted to know everything about humans before they attacked. They used us to learn." Tears ran down Eunice's face. "We thought you were dead. We mourned you. I wish I was dead." This is worse than death. I can see everything they do with my body. I can feel everything, but I cannot stop them. They are so hungry, Yuna, so hungry for new minds, and they think human minds are special, different from anything they have tasted before. The connection began to fade. Wait, Yuna begged. How do we stop them? There must be a way. The core minds, Sunwoo whispered. They control everything. If you destroy them, the network breaks. But they are protected by layers of absorbed ships. You would have to go through an army to reach them. And Yuna. They know you are listening. They want you to come. They think they can absorb you too. The connection died. Yuna sat in silence for a long moment. Then she stood up and went to find Captain Jinho. The battle continued to rage outside. Human forces were holding their ground, but barely. The Hollow kept adapting, kept learning, kept pushing forward. For every enemy ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. Corey's the Velka Elder was brought to the bridge under heavy guard. He looked at the carnage on the screens and fell to his knees. I am so sorry, he said. There was a traitor among my people. They planted a beacon in our ship. I did not know until it was too late. Jinho looked at the old alien with cold eyes. Your apologies will not bring back my dead soldiers. But my knowledge might save the ones who are still alive. Corey's pulled himself up. The Hollow have a weakness. Their core minds are arrogant. They believe they cannot be defeated. That arrogance makes them careless. If you can get a weapon close enough to the core minds, you can destroy them. But it would have to be something they cannot adapt to. Something truly alien to their network. What kind of weapon? Corey's looked at Ginho with his dark, sad eyes. Something based on the one thing the Hollow have never been able to fully absorb. Human neural patterns. Your minds are too chaotic, too individual, too stubborn. That is why they wanted to study you for so long. That is why they fear you. For the first time since the battle began, Jinho felt something like hope. Show me, he said. Show me how we can use that against them. Outside, the Hollow swarm continued to advance. They did not know that humanity was about to fight back in a way they had never expected. The Hollow broke through the outer defenses on the 3rd day of battle. Human forces retreated to the Sol system, the last line of protection before Earth itself. Ships that had fought bravely for 72 hours now limped home with broken hulls and exhausted crews. Captain Ginho watched his fleet shrink with every passing hour. Fleet Marshal Sujin appeared on his screen. Her old face was tired but determined. Captain, I am authorizing Protocol Chyanbile. If the Hollow reach Earth, we will destroy our own sun. Everything in this system will burn. Them and us together. Jinho felt the weight of those words. You would kill 8 billion humans to stop them. I would kill 8 billion to prevent 8 billion from being absorbed. Death is mercy compared to what the Hollow would do to us. You have seen what happens to their victims. I will not let that happen to our people. The communication ended. Jinho stood alone on his bridge, surrounded by the ghosts of decisions yet to be made. Lieutenant Yuna found him there. I have a plan, she said. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were red from crying. Science Director Heijan finished the weapon. It is a virus based on human neural patterns. If we can get it into the core minds, it will destroy their network from the inside. How do we deliver it? Someone has to fly a stealth ship into the heart of the swarm and upload it directly. The Hollow can detect our regular ships, but they have never seen a human pilot alone. A single person might slip through. Jinho understood what she was not saying. It is a suicide mission. Yes. And you want to volunteer? Yuna nodded. My brother's in there. What is left of him? He told me where the core mines are. He can guide me through the swarm. This is the only way, Captain, and I am the only one who can do it. Ginho looked at this young woman who was asking permission to die. He thought about his grandfather, Doyen, who had watched so many friends sacrifice themselves during the first contact wars. He thought about the weight of sending another soldier to their death. There is any other way, he began. There is not, and we are out of time. Jinho closed his eyes. When he opened them, his decision was made. Then go, Lieutenant. Go and save us all. The stealth ship was small, barely bigger than a shuttle. Yuna climbed inside alone. Commander Minji gave her a final salute from the hangar deck. No words were needed. They both knew this was goodbye. The ship launched into the chaos of battle. Around her, human and hollow forces tore each other apart. Energy beams crossed the darkness like deadly lightning. Ships exploded in silence, their crews dying without a sound. Yuna flew through the destruction like a ghost. The hollow sensors swept past her, searching for threats, but her ship was too small, too quiet. She slipped between their lines and headed toward the center of the swarm. Her brother's voice came through her radio, weak and broken. Came, Sunwoo said. I knew you would. Turn left at the next cluster. Avoid the blue ships. They have better sensors. I am here to end this, Yuna said. I am here to free you. I know. Thank you. She followed his directions through the nightmare. The core mines were protected by layers of absorbed ships, just as Corey's had warned. But Sunwoo knew paths through the defenses. He guided his sister through the maze of death, one turn at a time. At last, she reached the center. The hollow core mines were massive organic structures, pulsing with stolen intelligence. Millions of absorbed minds fed into them, screaming in eternal silence. This was the heart of the enemy. This was where it all ended. Yuna, Sunwoo whispered. Before you do this, I want you to know, we never stopped fighting. Every mind they absorbed has been resisting. They thought they could break us. They could not. Human minds do not surrender. We just needed someone to give us the chance to strike back. Yuna reached the upload point. Her hands moved across the controls. The virus began transmitting. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the hollow screamed. The sound broadcast across every frequency in the galaxy. A billion voices cried out in shock and pain. The great network that had consumed hundreds of civilizations began to tear itself apart. Human neural patterns spread through the system like fire, creating chaos and disorder where there had been perfect unity. The hollow could not adapt. They had never understood human minds. They had studied them, feared them, hungered for them, but they had never truly absorbed one. Now they understood why human minds did not follow rules. They did not obey commands. They were stubborn and chaotic and absolutely refused to be controlled. That stubbornness became a weapon. The virus amplified it, spread it, used it to destroy the network from within. The swarm fragmented. Ships that had moved in perfect coordination suddenly went dark. The absorbed crews were finally released. Their torment ended in the mercy of death. Yuna's ship was caught in the collapse. Systems failed around her. She had time for one final transmission. Tell them it worked, she said. Tell them we won. Then the core mines exploded, and Yuna was gone. The war ended in silence. The hollow threat was broken. Fragments escaped to the distant edges of the galaxy, but they would take generations to rebuild if they ever could. Humanity had faced the most dangerous enemy in the universe and survived. Ginho stood on Mars 1 month later. Before him rose a monument, black stone reaching toward the sky. The names of every human lost in the Hollow War were carved into its surface. Lieutenant Yuna's name was near the top. At the base of the monument, a single phrase was written. We do not forgive. We do not forget. But we choose who is worth saving. Behind Jinho, the Velka refugees waited. The War Council had voted. For the first time in 200 years, aliens were granted permission to live in human space. They would help rebuild. They would share their knowledge. They would become, slowly, part of humanity's future. Across the galaxy, other species watched and wondered. They had expected humans to fall. Instead, humans had risen. The old warning still stood. No one enters human space uninvited. But now there was a new understanding. A new truth. If you came seeking destruction, you would find your grave. But if you came seeking salvation, if you came with honest hearts and open hands, humanity might just answer. The stars were no longer only a place of enemies. Perhaps someday they could also be a place of friends. Jinho looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, his grandfather's spirit was watching. "We are still human," Jinho whispered. "We never forgot." And for the first time in 2 centuries, that felt like something to be proud of.